Hello, everyone. My name is Thomas Smith. I'm a member of the business development team at Net Capital. Let's give everyone a moment here to settle in. All right, this is great. Getting some folks coming in. See a few more that are waiting to get in, so we'll just give everyone a few more moments here. All right, well, we'll go over some items while the rest of our guests are getting seated. Well, again, welcome. And it looks like we're approaching almost full capacity. So without further ado, I would like to introduce and welcome Raju and Trisha. How are you both doing today?
Doing well.
Great.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Well, it's a pleasure to speak with you both. And I'm just going to run through a few housekeeping items for our audiences, and then we'll dive right into it. So before we get started here, I just wanted to touch upon, like I said, a few housekeeping items. As with all of our companies, when we have our webinars, Live Masterminds is actively fundraising on Net Capital right now. You can invest in the company by visiting netcapital.com and searching Live Masterminds if you are interested in investing in this very exciting company. For those of you who are viewing live, I will put the link to their offering in the chat. Next, I want to mention that we do want this webinar to be as interactive as possible. So please use the Q&A function, not the chat, but the Q&A to send your questions in when it's time to do so, and we'll be answering many of them. Now, I know there are investors in here that have already invested in the company and those who are looking to potentially invest. We will do our best to cover both sides of the aisle. So with that being said, Raju and Trisha, why don't you come on in and tell everyone a little bit about yourselves?
Terrific.
Beautiful. I'm Trisha Ramos. Obviously, this is Raju Panjwani. And collectively, we have over 60 years in corporate leadership and 18 plus years in entrepreneurship. So you can guess that's mostly him.
You just ascribing an age here to this guy here.
Well, that's great. Well, we really appreciate you both taking the time to be here today. And, you know, I need to be in the position of being unbiased, but working at Net Capital, I've absolutely loved watching your company. And when I first heard about that you were coming on the platform, I was very excited to see how everything evolved. So for those who maybe haven't seen your offering or tuning in just for the first time, can you give us just a brief overview of the company and the general thesis to it?
Sure. You know, it's always a good story when you figure out what the genesis of this company is, or any company is for that matter, right? What led to it? What the origin was. So about 2 years ago, as I normally do, I spend a lot, and as does Trisha, we didn't know each other, and I was at a mastermind. Interesting choice of words, because we invest in ourselves, so you know, it's an expensive proposition to go to different, you know, seminars back in the day pre-COVID, and so I was one of those, as was Trisha, and we met about 2 years ago, and you know, there was something about what I was thinking of doing at the time. It was a business mastermind. And, you know, this was in Utah, and then both of us live in New York about an hour apart. And then that's how
it all began over hiking, you know, climbing mountains, surmounting peaks. I found myself going to this mastermind just about 3 months after I launched my entrepreneurship journey, after having left, you know, 20 years in corporate. And I logically had no business spending that much money to go to this event. However, it just felt like I had to go. And so little did we imagine that a few months later, we would actually launch Live Masterminds without us intending in India, because Raju had invited me to join him to go host multiple day live events for Indian entrepreneurs. And wouldn't you know that we landed in India on March 8th, 2020, right at the very beginning of what we now know today as the world locking down. And so since that time, Tom, we've been pivoting, whether it was taking those live events, moving them to Zoom for free, finally coming back to New York a month later, having a subscription filled with all Indian entrepreneurs, and then launching group coaching programs for Americans. And actually, one of our clients is from Dubai, where we now all of a sudden found ourselves doing 12-week group coaching programs for corporate leaders who wanted to transition to entrepreneurship. So that's really how it began. And we did a couple of those sessions. We also launched a 6-month mastermind out of demand for people who graduated those programs. And then December last year, we both felt like this itch where something's not right. Something is not right. There's something else that we're not doing. And from asking those questions and digging deep, the idea for this platform came to be. And Raju is a man of action. So within like weeks, he was telling me about Net Capital, and I was like, what? And then here we are. This is how everything sort of just evolved.
There's always stories within stories, right? So, we'll tell you later about how Net Capital, why Net Capital, because it's tied to this thing we live in. So when I asked Trisha to join me and to come to India, it was just one of these epiphanies that, I got to launch this in India, and not just because I'm from India, but I just felt I had startups there, and I just felt there was something pulling me there. And out of the blue, I called her to join me, and it was a collaboration at the time. And then, it was just as we got shut down, as we couldn't do what we were supposed to do, it led to other things. And so we're firm believers in trusting, our intuition, and we've never looked back because we're always steady about what it is we want to do. And so this platform idea just literally was born out of having incorporated the company. We called ourselves Live Masterminds because we love doing live events, right? And right, it's so oxymoronic, right? That it's Live Masterminds and there's nothing live physically happening. So we figured, well, live, it's just virtual, it's okay. And then when the time is right, we will do more live. But then it was like, how do we become more inclusive? And that's when this idea was born for.
And really, the idea that we didn't seek out entrepreneurial corporate leaders who wanted to leave their jobs to be entrepreneurs. It's just, I guess, because we were very vulnerable and sharing our backgrounds, that's who we started to attract.
Yeah.
And even more so beyond that, we were attracting leaders who understand that there is this idea of unity consciousness that connects all of us. And so we know that entrepreneurship is all about risk and adventure, and it's actually a lot of fun and it's a lot of work. And so there's so much about that conversation that I think really allows somebody to want to tap into, okay, how much of me do I believe has the potential to achieve what I'm able to imagine? And what if we can create a community where people can willingly and readily tap into that? And so this platform is really about giving employees who want to be entrepreneurs the path to reduce, the complexity, to remove the barriers. Because as we know, there's been so many people, millions, hundreds of millions of people that have lost their jobs, last year, and are now looking for ways to repackage their experience, turn their experiences into wisdom, and then be able to contribute and serve on a higher level than they have before.
Well, when I think of this, and I was actually talking to one of my colleagues earlier this morning, I feel like Live Masterminds has so many touch points, right? Because, between the general thesis on what you were explaining, the thought process on when you went to India, and then what happened, and then this pandemic that we know is COVID,
Yes.
and now fast forward 15 months later. I mean, there's just it's such a versatile company. Can you talk a little bit more about, that you talked about the pivot. Now we're talking about the coming back to the norm. Is it going to be, you said obviously still saying virtual with some aspects? Do you foresee, in the next, before the end of 2021, going back to live? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, picking up the last point about being live, we'll certainly have in our plans to have live events, around November of this year.
Yes.
That would include, our current clients, prospect clients. And, unlike other platforms that are out there, they're not platforms, but they're like built around celebrity names. And then you have a generic, inclusive big events, arenas. We're not about that. As Trisha just said, we're really about inclusive of individuals, because we've always said to everybody that you have a unique expression in this world. You may be an employee transitioning to entrepreneurship, but you could also be, the wisdom you want to see in the world, the things you want to see the world change with. So we're democratizing that coaching, the wisdom expression, whatever form it takes. Typically it takes an entrepreneurial journey, or it's an entrepreneurial expression. So how, in any walk of life, whether it's your health or relationships or whatever, what happens when you have this burning desire to express yourself, but it's just a burning desire, you keep getting self-doubt, fear come in the way, and you just don't get started. So what we want to do is take the friction out of getting started in a business. So that's our focus. If it's a service-based business, coaching business, you want to turn an entrepreneur from being a corporate, we want to have this platform make it so easy for you. It's a multi-sided platform that we're building that allows you to just simply come in and play in the sandbox and not get all caught up in how is it going to work? How's it going to work? Just focus on what is it that you want to do and why is it that you want to do this?
And we're really talking about transformation, right? And we're really making transformation accessible to anybody. So what we love about this idea of live masterminds, Tom, is that yes, we can do it virtually. And in fact, 2 months ago, we hosted a 3-day virtual event where we featured many coaches in the space who are, experts in their own fields, but definitely aligned with the idea of unity consciousness and bringing people together through heart connection. And we have plans for an actual live event in November of this year to do more of the same so that we can collect evidence, right? And I think that's so important when you're on this transformation journey, when you're really, in essence, dying to an old version of you so that you can be born into your next level of growth. And when you create a way for people to witness others doing that, or a way for them to actually jump in and be a part of creating that for themselves. Wow, you've heard of that saying, a rising tide raises all boats. It makes it so that this isn't just for a few chosen people that get to do this. This is accessible to all of us. And now Raju and I have been students of personal development, for many lifetimes. So let's just say it that way. And we are used to going to events where you have essential figure, celebrity status type people. And those people have made huge impacts and has inspired us to do what we do today. We want to blow that up to something where it isn't about us. However, it is about everybody who wants to be a part of it.
And I just think that's so powerful, because at least my experience in business has been, before at Net Capital, I founded both nonprofit and for-profit companies, and everyone obviously always used to ask me, how did you do that? That must have been so hard. And I wish the best one was, I wish I could do that. You at Live Masterminds are literally cutting right in the middle and saying, yes, you can. Yes, you can do that. And I just love that, because to your point, Trisha, sometimes it just takes that push and then that roadmap, right? Because people think, obviously creating a business and personal growth and things like that, it's an interesting path on how you get there. And there's really no it's not a one-way street, right? There's really no one direction. There's many ways to skin the cat here, but there is a way to plan it out, and there is a way to do it where you can get from A to B to C to F to X and then Z. I love what you guys are doing. So next question for you. You alluded to it a little bit, and then I just touched upon it, the problem that you're looking to solve. But if you could say, in just a brief couple sentences, the problem that Live Masterminds is looking to solve and hopes to solve, what is it?
So in simple terms, the problem is to get you started on your journey and take the friction and the complexity out of it, because that is where all the problems begin. I don't know how to do this. You start doing Googles and YouTube videos, etc. It's not that complicated to get started, is what we want to tell you when you plug into this platform. That's our hope for our business.
Right. And we happen to be focusing on coaches and the coaching industry, which is, as you know, I think if you've been following us, we've been really sharing the message, the truth that it is the second fastest growing industry in the world. And because of COVID, it even has surpassed those initial projections. So we're focusing on coaches, one, because we're coaches and we know the power of, what a coach, working with a coach can do for you in terms of accelerating your own growth and your ability to serve and contribute. So we happen to be focusing on them right now. And, eventually we see this as something that perhaps can grow into other service providers. That really is a way to allow for, there's been a shift in consciousness, right? So as more and more people are exploring the idea of tapping into a side hustle and maybe making that side hustle be their main thing, or even recognizing, I love, the millennials are like, I don't need one thing, I can have a lot of different things. And we're really just moving with the times, or perhaps even slightly more ahead of it, to just say, you know what, we don't have to do anything that's been prescribed if it doesn't work with who we believe we are and who we know our potential, what our potential is. And so the problem that we're trying to solve is really to make this shift possible for anybody. We all came uniquely equipped, authentically gifted with what is ours to do in a way that only we can do. What if more and more people tapped into that? Because as you know, now anybody can monetize what it is that is uniquely theirs, because there's somebody looking for it. And one of the values we hold true to is this idea of humility, virtue rather. And humility really speaks to the idea that not one of us can survive on our own or do things without others. And if you looked at people in front of us, this is really about tapping into that universal tapestry. And when someone doesn't allow themselves to fully embody who they're capable of being, that tapestry is lacking that piece forever. And we're saying, let's make it be unique. Let's make it be colorful, because in the diversity, we do find the oneness and the unity. And that's the problem. The problem is, people just sometimes are limited to what they've grown up with, what they were educated with. And we're saying to you, there are other possibilities, infinite amounts of possibilities, so that you can exist in a way that you are not just trapped in survival mode. You don't have to be subject to what the outside world is dictating. And we can actually all thrive. And there's so much abundance out there. Let's tap into it together.
I love that. And Raju, what you said at the beginning of the question, I absolutely love. And like, what really bothered me, especially with freshman, sophomore year when I was in high school, right? You get the teachers, they say, what do you want to be when you grow up?
That's right.
And by my senior year, I said, why do I have to be one thing? And you with Live Masterminds are unlocking so much of that in terms of potential on, okay, well, this maybe is what the status quo says we have to do, but what actually makes you happy? Like what fulfills you? And I love that about your business.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you. So, we're really just saying that all the norms that you've been used to, the programs and the formal education, which is only 200 years old, not that long. You really, and Tricia mentioned the word awakening. It's somehow COVID has led to a global, at least tapping into this consciousness, right? So if that's true, and we know it's true, then we want to start, kindling that fire in people, that you are conscious, and as you raise your consciousness even more and more and more, you can do that through, your own expression of who you are uniquely.
Absolutely. And just as a reminder to everyone, before we jump to the next question, Tricia and Raju, I just want to remind everyone who's listening, those who will be listening in the future, live in the chat is the link to live masterminds we're currently raising on Net Capital. And those who will be listening as a future, you can go to netcapital.com and search live masterminds. And if you choose to do so, you can invest in their company right now as they are live on the Net Capital platform. Now, jumping into some of the business components in terms of the metrics and the finances of the company, because now we understand the general thesis, the opportunity in terms of the transformation and how you hope to change this world with live masterminds. But when you look at it from 10,000 feet, how big do you think the market opportunity is for your product?
Well, great question. But before I answer that question, I do have, we were talking earlier before we started recording, ulivemasterminds.com is the company. And then our flagship name for most of our programs is Bold Conscious. So I want to make sure that you got the fact that conscious was the reference we made earlier about consciousness. We want to have people become more bold as they're becoming more conscious. So
as leaders, bold, conscious leaders. Yes.
As far as the market, so depending on what study you use, Tom, coaching is thrown in with learning, development, education is a bigger kind of industry. The education, self-learning, learning development, et cetera, is about an $8 trillion addressable market. Okay, but we're talking about the subsector or the subset, which is coaching. So based on PwC and McKinsey, they seem to have dovetailed these numbers. The coaching industry was growing at about 12% on average the last 5 years. In 2020 and 2021, it's at 80%. So it went from about 2 billion in market to 2.2 billion to 3.6 billion roughly. That's a big growth, and that's why we quoted that in our offering page. It's the second fastest growing industry for a reason. And this particular year has shown people that, hey, there is more to life than what we lived, right? So that's the size of the market as we see it. It doesn't matter. If it's galloping away, what happens post 2021? People ask us those questions. Look, we don't know, but we know that acceleration of your personal growth, professional growth comes from coaching, and we've lived it for years now.
Yeah, and I think you can't unsee something once you've seen it. And the idea that as a planet, everybody was forced to stay home and not have anything to distract themselves the way we normally have had in the past. So I think a lot more people were able to tap into, what it is to, why are people triggered? What is mental health issues on the rise? Is it really on the rise, or is it that people actually didn't have anything to distract them from having to face it? And so, the depth of coaching and what it is able to provide for somebody who is looking to find answers. We as coaches know it's not about the answers. It's about the questions that you ask. And the questions that you ask provide the openings for the individual to discover what they already know within. It's a very empowering thing. So when you add that to what Raju was sharing about what the projections were prior to 2020, there's no question it's gone to 80%. And I believe, we both believe, it's only going to continue to grow. So, the other thing that, we mentioned in the video, if you haven't watched the video, you should watch the video. The other thing we mentioned in the video is that coaches have coaches. So this is an industry that truly, I want to say, is unique in that way, because you recognize that when it's almost like, yeah, you know what, new level, new devil. Right? There's a new level of growth. There's something new to overcome. And when you're tapped into the idea that, you know what, I'm hitting a roadblock, let me find someone that can help me. When you are able to do that, man, what you can do, not just for your own growth and progress, but also for the growth and the progress of your clients. Because now you're able to really continue on your path. And this industry is so powerful because obviously coaches find clients, or clients find coaches a lot through word of mouth. And I recently just had a client contact me who I worked with 2 years ago. 2 years later, she says, I think I need you for a year. When we worked together for 3 months 2 years ago. So these are just some of the, as we grow, as we become more aware of what it is that's on the line, if we continue just being who we have been without making the effort to go beyond it. And you tie that to the business, the size of the business, where the business could go. Right now, the coaching industry is very much fragmented. So a platform like this would be able to bring great coaches together to really bring the standards up. It's really phenomenal to be a part of.
No, it's such an exciting time. I think such an opportunistic time for live masterminds. So understanding how big the market is for your product, can you talk a little bit about the business model and really how does the company make money?
Okay. So, we're beginning with calling ourselves a multi-sided platform. I mean, it's a marketplace, because what we're saying is it's a marketplace. It's two-sided, but we're saying there's a 3 sides at least today, and we're setting it up for growth and scale for the future, which is why we chose it this way. So what do we mean by that? So it's clients looking for coaches, coaches looking for clients, coaches looking for coaches, and we're throwing in, as we said earlier, to get the person who wants to express themselves through a business and through just getting started. They also get, depending on what they want from the platform, curated resources, curated partnerships that we've formed to come in and just have resources on the platform.
Right. So service providers who really exist to help coaches launch and scale their businesses. So it's really, it's going to be subscription based, and there'll be multiple levels of subscription, and depending on what that is, they will get different levels of services. So that is, the part of the model. And aside from that, Raju and I still will continue what we do as coaches with our own programs. Our programs will be on the platform, but they won't be the only programs on the platform, because obviously coaches coming on will be able to also put their programs on the platform. What I think is so compelling to know about that piece of it, Tom, is a lot of coaches become coaches because they actually experienced what coaching did for them. So we see, we foresee clients coming onto the platform, feeling the benefit of working with a coach, and then deciding that, they too want to get on that journey. Well, they don't have to go very far because they're already there. And the connections and the collaborations and the people that exist, whether it's a videographer, a brand marketing expert, an accountant, legal, like those providers will also be there to help shorten their path.
So, short of saying, hey, that's a good accountant, or that's a good platform, or here's a good videographer we recommend. That happens in the world today, word of mouth. But we want to make this easy to find. So you could have a person sitting in China who could find somebody in San Diego. So it's global, right? In that sense, it's all, the world has now told us it's very easy to find each other in ways, but we want to make it easier. So we're facilitators for that. But yeah, so it's fees that, for our own stuff that we do, and subscriptions. So there are two really major sources of our revenue.
Two channels there. Love it.
Mhm.
Love it. And Raju, to your point, it is global. And I think if COVID has expedited anything, I think it's the instantaneousness of being able to do business on a global scale, right? Because
Mhm.
things like Zoom,
Yep.
folks and at least in our market, in the private capital markets, is raising capital. You can do it instantaneously. You don't need to jump on a plane and fly across the country or fly around the world. It can be all done in the digital marketplace. So
Yep.
totally understand the model in that respect, Raju and Trisha, and love it, quite frankly. So when you think about between now and the end of 2021, what are some of the milestones that you both are very excited about for Live Masterminds?
Well, one we just mentioned, because one of our culmination of all that we've been doing for 15 months is going to be the live mastermind that we're hoping that we bring our clients.
Finally, a live event.
Now, we don't know which state will be, because it depends on where it's open by then. We're excited to bring our present clients, past clients, to give them the stage to the extent they, for their journeys, not to be testimonials, but because they've launched their businesses over these months too from our program. And it's like, wow, I mean, listen, I was on Wall Street for 20 years and had five startups. It's my sixth startup. I didn't know I was going to be a coach. I had no clue. But here we are, because I went through coaching directly to me. And so we're excited about all that. So anyway, coming back to the milestone. So that's one that we're looking forward to, and hitting some, revenue targets for ourselves. The other thing is that as we're building the platform, we're raising this capital through you guys, basically because we want to get the development of the platform. We've already identified the developers to get them going to build the platform. So there will be an MVP, minimum viable product, by the end of the year. That's our hope, and that's our focus, and we believe it. So it's already done in our minds, and we know what we want the platform to do. So that's part of it. You want to add what else you see by the end of 2021 besides those two things?
You have it all written out. Go ahead, take it, go.
No. So that's really what I wanted to say. The next one's beyond.
Well, there's also the team.
Yes.
Yeah. So part of what we want to see before the end of 2021 is to add key roles to our leadership team. If you're watching this and you're someone who loves marketing and is really someone that can resonate and align with what it is that we're doing, we're really looking for somebody on that level to help us with spreading the word and getting the message out there that this is what this platform is and this is how it can make a difference.
And we continue to work on partnerships and other resources that we talked about. So that's all apart from raising the capital to use for that. But we already know who we want for some of our resource providers and those that are our supporters. So that's what we're trying to do at this point.
So it's fair to say that both of you and Live Masterminds as a whole has a very busy schedule between now and the end of the year.
We bend time, as we say.
We bend time. We don't really like to use the word busy. For anyone watching this who follows human design, Raju and I are both projectors. And a lot of what we measure has to do with how busy we are. So part of our own transformation journey is remembering that our worth goes beyond what we produce. So we actually, Tom, that's so great that you asked that question, because we intentionally, we go about our work days. Okay, we're going to bend time today. And for us, bending time, it's purely energetics. It's about what we're both coming into it with. We're not interested in the linear 3D conversation. We really are very much, thinking about, okay, quantum possibilities. How can we quantum leap this moment? And we're in it, not to say we're always up there floating high. I mean, you can imagine that to build together what we have been building, we have gone to the depths of the depths, right? Like when you think about building skyscrapers, the taller that building is, the lower into the ground the foundation has to go. So I use that as a metaphor to communicate to you that part of what we work on besides this platform is our own capacity to build up our own leadership skills, self-leadership, and also our ability to connect with others. So we are, I guess, if you want to use a traditional a definition for busy, yeah, we embody this work through and through.
So another way to say this is that we spend a lot of time individually on our self-mastery. So without those practices, you cannot do this work, because otherwise you're operating from here and the do, but the big missing part is the heart. And then so I've had to learn this the hard way, and it's like it has to be the heart first. And what I was taught for 40 years, 50 years makes no sense anymore. So it's that way of saying, okay, without how do you get in flow? I mean, the linear time is the same for everybody, right? Everybody has the same amount of time, but how do you get more inside of you? So as above, so below, as you probably heard that phrase from the Kabbalion.
Yes. No, but Raju, I love that. And I love how, just talking to you, right? We're 41 minutes into this, and just your passion. And then that drives into the purpose, right? I think that's a big differentiator between passion and purpose. But folks who really feel this as their purpose, you can't hide that. And it's just radiating off the both of you two. And I love it because it's so sincere.
Well, we appreciate you pointing that out.
And you know what, Tom?
It's infectious. I'm loving this webinar.
Well, Tom, you know what all three of us are demonstrating right now, that there is no limits to our ability to connect with each other. And if you or someone before who thought you could only do business with someone face to face in the physical, if you're watching this, you could see what's happening here. You're witnessing that these types of connection, this level of depth, and maybe we can't see you, but maybe you're also feeling connected to our mission. We're demonstrating for you really how this works, right? This is what quantum is about. And, we want to make this possible for more and more people.
Yeah, and I think you're proving out your model, right? You have the live in person, but you also have the live virtual, and both can be just as effective.
Yes.
At least we hope we're proving that out. And I think you both are doing a fantastic job at that. And the proof is, in the business. And segue from that, before we get to our last couple of questions, if anyone listening now or those who are listening in the future want to invest or take a look at the offering page for Live Masterminds, you can go to netcapital.com right now and search the company. They're live on our site, actively raising capital. Now, I've gotten this question a few times, so I'm gonna skip around a little bit from a couple of our listeners and attendees. So when you think about, okay, the potential exits for this company and for the investors, so we talked about the market opportunity, we talked about the potential to make money in the interim, but when you look at exit for this company and for the investors, what comes to mind, and what can you share with everyone listening now and those who will be listening in the future?
One thing I've learned from my 5 startups is that, you could take a startup as your baby and then just hold on to it forever. Yeah. But if we're inclusive in our thinking and our feeling and our heart-led that we are, in our excitement when we were sharing our offer page with people, we say, oh, you'll be helping us ring the New York Stock Exchange or, the bell with us as an IPO, right? Like any other, dreamy company, we all dream about IPOs and things like that. We realize that is not necessarily what we're after. We're building a legacy beyond the two of us, right? We're the founders, but our heart and soul is in this as far as to germinate it, to let it grow, and to include, and now be more inclusive of everybody in whatever form of coaching that they want to do and launch it as a business. So for us, it's really, if it's an M&A opportunity that shows up, we'll be open to it as long as it's the right one for the company, which adds to the overall growth and scale to expand the message. I mean, if you look at our offering document, it'll tell you that our goal was to bring 50,000 to 100,000 new business entrepreneurs, coaches onto our platform in the next 5 years. That's sizable. I mean, that's a big number. And whatever that translates to revenue and then valuation, you don't even want to go there, because the subscription fees, even at the 4 levels we mentioned earlier, it's not huge. But if we get those sort of numbers in there, I mean, this would be a company that people would really be coveting to be part of, or we would acquire others. Who knows? We don't know. But M&A is a big it's part of my DNA too. So yeah, I think it plays to that.
Got it. Well, we have a couple more questions here, and one of the ones that's comes up now 3 times now. So we've all experienced and lived through what's happened in the past 15 months. And now you talked a little bit about between now and to the end of the year. And I think the general thesis, which I hope it is that you have the in-person, but you can also do live virtually and can be extremely effective, right? But when you look into 2022, it's been asked a few times now, how many events are, when you plan that year, think about that. Now, we're only halfway through 2021, but if you had a crystal ball, what do you hope that the monthly schedule looks like, or bi-monthly or quarterly, or in terms of live events in person for live masterminds going into next year?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of live events, we're not really talking about size, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about just actual live events. I mean, we began this webinar with, we love live events. We love bringing people together. We love giving people the opportunity to be on our platform, to share what it is that, what their message is. So, I would say minimum 1 per quarter.
Yeah.
Different cities. We began in India, right? So that was the original or the first initial plan. So we see ourselves as global already, and we have clients all over the world. So we want to continue to serve, those communities, and to be able to, again, we're not the platform that is just going to highlight you once you've reached 1 million, followers, or, 2 billion, your net worth is 2 billion. That's not us. We are saying to you that your message, your way that you're going to help change the world is valuable, is important. If you want to participate with us in our events, and speak, reach out to us, let us know, because we really are interested in highlighting everybody at every part of their journey. Because we're on that journey, right? We're still, nobody ever arrives, you're never done. And, thank you for asking the question, because that's always for us sort of like the touch point where we know the power of those types of get-togethers, as we met each other at one of those events. And then look, just use that as an example. Look at this platform is coming to fruition, not even 2 years from when we met. So it's the power of proximity, the power of getting in with the right people, with the right community, and being able to share your ideas, share your values. Raju and I talk to our clients all the time about being clear on why you want to do something and what you want to do, and then letting the how unfold with grace and ease. And that's what this is about. And our live events would be able to, do the same thing. Our wish is that we could talk about, a lot of other people who attend our events that start businesses, who met at our events. Like that's what we want, or met on our platform.
Well, and I think as we look at, like we said, and I know we've said this a couple of times now, but the last 15 months, the effectiveness can be done on the digital side. And I know that's a big piece to live masterminds. I think what the 2 or 3 questions we're trying to get at is just trying to get an understanding. Is it, once a quarter? Is it every other month? Is it every 6 months? And so, Trisha, I really appreciate you diving into that a little further. But I personally, I'm excited to see, through now and the end of the year and also going into 2022, the trajectory of live masterminds, because, here at Net Capital, our whole thesis is that things can be done virtually online. And then we have, our bullets that go under that from the raising capital standpoint in the private capital markets. So, and what you're trying to do with live masterminds, I get it. And I'm a believer in terms of that things can be done just as well virtually as they can be done in person. But as we, that's our business model, but at Net Capital, we still understand that human element. And I think that's where some of the questions were coming from, where if someone wants to see you live in person, when will they have to wait to do that? And I know you said November, and then looking into 2022. Well, I know we only have a few minutes left here, and Raju, I want to give you an opportunity to ask a question.
Now, I was going to say to add to what Tricia said is that just because we're planning our events sort of every quarter in different parts of the world or maybe the US, that doesn't mean that we're not doing our virtual events all the time, right? Just want to be sure that that's clear, that we're not a once a quarter type of people that would just do events. We're not an events company. We're a coaching platform. So I just want to be clear about that.
Yeah, and just so I'm clear on my end, I think that was more so if someone wanted to, if you were putting on, for a larger capacity in person, what does that look like for 2022? Is I think what that question was alluding to. But
multiple days, multiple day events in a city, once per quarter. But to Raju's point, we would still do our virtual live events,
like through coaching programs and others that we're doing today.
Yeah.
So for instance, like if we did India was 3 cities, 2-day workshops in each. So that would be in one go, it was like 12 or 14 days, we'd have 3 events. So that's still very much on the cards as and when things, clear up on that side of the world, or it could be other parts of the world. So we're planning this sort of stuff all the time, but that would mean we want to make sure that enough people are able to be there and take advantage of what we're putting these workshops for.
Absolutely. And I know we only have a few minutes left here, and I feel like we've covered a lot of ground, but when someone, if I'm listening in and saying, okay, looking at live masterminds as a whole and thinking about, should I invest, should I not, do I want to sign up for the program, do I not, and things like that, what do you want to get across to folks that are listening now, and those that will be listening in a week from now, a month from now, 6 months from now, about your company that we haven't covered yet today?
This question you haven't asked yet, but the idea of what exactly are we building that others haven't already? Okay, so we touched on it a little bit, that what we're building this platform for is democratization. I used that word earlier, and it's driven by unity consciousness and inclusivity of other people who may be starting out, and we provide them that platform, and they could be there at these live events too, to showcase what they have achieved or done with this platform, as an example, right? So this also, the other thing we haven't mentioned, it's in our deck, and you haven't asked this, is that one way to actually manifest the democratization of it is we intend by the end of 2022 to tokenize our platform, which means that for those who are listening and don't know what that is, it's simply any part of the world, there is no limit to what somebody thinks they're worth, and they create their own value in this token that they want to command, because that's their unique expression in the world. And there's no federal government or central government telling you this is the wage you get paid. Well, and you could be the hardest working janitor in the world, but your wage is $8.25 an hour, says today's world here in this country. And we want to just be able to not have these limits placed on human beings. So I don't know if that makes sense, but tokenization is an important part of the future, which is really, now we don't talk about it as at front and center, but that's our future, part of the future plan. To then that's why it's going to be different.
It absolutely does, Raju. And I've enjoyed so much in speaking with the both of you today. One last time for anyone that's interested in seeking out more information on live masterminds via Net Capital, you can go to netcapital.com, search live masterminds, and see everything about their offering. You can make an investment now. Their page is live, and they're actively seeking investment via the Net Capital platform. Trisha, Raju, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to speak with everyone today. And also this webinar will be recorded and we'll put it up on our YouTube channel. So many people will be listening to this recording in the future. If you have any more questions, you can email us at Net Capital or visit Live Masterminds and seek out any information that you choose. Raju, Trisha, thank you so much. And thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate this.
Yes.
Of course. And thank you for everyone that attended. Have a great day, everyone.
Take care,
Take
Tom.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Tom.